Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and we are back in the studio. And this studio, Cut Daisies studio, not the not the listening room studio, and not the Earthen Warehouse studio, but the Cut Daisies studio. And we're here with another Phil and Steve edition. And there's going to be fun and exciting conversation that's going to occur today. We just don't even know what's in store for you yet, but I know it's going to be fun. So, Steve, how are you doing today?
You know what? I'm feeling good.
Yeah,
I'm feeling really good. Been a productive week this week. I drove back on Monday from, you know what?
Yeah,
Daisy is blocking our view.
Yeah,
I can't see you.
Yeah,
now I can see you. For those listening on Spotify or any of the other
channels,
listening channels, you couldn't see, but Daisy, the pink unicorn, was sitting on Edgar, the black crow or the raven, and was blocking my view into Phil's beautiful blue eyes. And so, so got back from Hinterland.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Can we start there?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so went to Hinterland, and safe trip out. Everything was super, super cool, and we got out there, and when I put into the map app, how long it was going to take. Now, mind you, this drive from my mom's house in Norwalk to St. Charles, Iowa, typically should only be about 20 minutes. All right?
Yeah.
If you took Highway 5 to 35 South, headed towards Kansas City, it was going to take an hour and 15 minutes to drive. So I'm like, well, I'll take the back roads. I mean, I'm a pragmatist. Right. I mean, why? If you have a choice between 35 minutes now or an hour and 15 minutes, I mean, unless you're a glutton for punishment, and there may be some of you out there, we'll talk about gluttony later and your necessary attraction to the punishment of life. But I'm like, all right, we'll go the back road. Well, the stupid app was going to take me down a gravel road. And I didn't want to go down a gravel road, not because I was really worried about the dust. I'm just like, I didn't want to have to pay attention. All right. So for those of you following the Enneagram stuff, that's my 9. Mm-hmm. How lazy can we get on this drive? So let's stay attached to pavement. Right. So I stay attached to pavement, and so I'm like, well, I'll just get on the interstate and go south towards St. Charles, and there was a lineup on the off-ramp 3 miles long of cars heading in for the first night.
Yeah.
So it took me down 6 miles south to Truro, over 2 miles, and up a paved road into the south side of St. Charles.
Wow.
Which, I mean, I've typically parked in St. Charles, never paid for parking. Pro tip, if you go to Hinterland, the parking's a ripoff.
Yeah.
They charge you a lot of money to park where everyone else is parking. Mm-hmm. So when the concert's all over, you know what you get to do?
Sit.
Wait. You get to wait. So basically, if you're going to this music festival and you pay for, and then people were up in arms. I can't believe there wasn't enough general parking. What do you mean you can't believe?
Right.
Now, kudos to the St. Charles natives.
Right.
We counted over 20 of these four-wheelers, and some girls were telling the story that they show up on the four-wheeler and they're giving rides $10 a person.
Wow. That's capitalization on the...
Oh my gosh. Now the Lions Club was there doing fundraiser, and they had another 10 of them, and they were running people back and forth. It's like this little mini, they don't have to be on the road to be able to travel, so they're pulled off to the side or going through the ditches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, it is hilarious. So anyway, but I mean, we walked, I don't know, three quarters of a mile, maybe a mile, to be able to get into the front gate and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so first night, the line's horrible. All of a sudden, I'm looking around, and it looks like I guesstimated 20,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
On average, typically at Hinterland in the past, it's been somewhere between 10 and 13,000. It was so packed, and then somebody got up on stage and said, yeah, hey, I hear that we got like 15,000 people here. And I'm like, somebody's not telling you the truth.
Right.
Yeah. This is another, if you want to talk about governmental conspiracy theories, this is the live music conspiracy theory. I think if they said there were 20,000 people there, I think that they would have people in and just barking about COVID and all that stuff. So anyway, but hey, you know what? First night, Old Crow Medicine Show, that dude, he's an entertainer. And then Avett Brothers. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, and Seth, if you want to have a conversation about that, Phil and I are more than willing.
Of course.
To have you on the podcast and to be able to talk about what's really going on with the band right now. Because all of their music, as beautiful as ever, Avett Brothers. Musically beautiful. But I think they've been affected by COVID. And this might be this might be a new I don't know, condition. Is how COVID, we've started talking about how COVID has affected us.
Yeah.
But I think as a band, they are affected by COVID because you know what? It felt like they were checking the songs off the list.
So the showmanship was not present, or is that like the kind of the performance of it?
They performed it well.
Yeah.
I mean, they performed it excellently. Right. Now, granted, I'm wading through the energy of 15,000 people that are all gathered around. Everybody's like just blown away by how many people there are.
Yeah.
Like when there's been times like in the first couple years, you just walk in and you could plop down anywhere, But there was a conversation on Instagram where they were accusing the Hinterland people of overselling VIP, having 1,000 people in the VIP section and only 4 Kaibos. They're like, how are 1,000 people supposed to use, and that kind of thing? Oh, my word. Yeah, so not only was it hot and sticky,
right,
humid, I mean, and all that, but then you add, I mean, let's say on average in the past there were 10,000 people, you've increased the attendance by 30%. Well, that's probably not even right. It's probably I don't know how percentages work. I know you're not good at math.
You could have said 30%.
I mean, like, basically, if you have 15,000 people, you've added 5,000, but you had 10,000. And if somebody like Jim Jorgensen wants to go ahead and do the math on how much a percentile of growth, we know he's a consistent follower. I would love to know what kind of growth that is. It would be the equivalent of if you had $100 and you add 50, then you have 150. So you got 30% divisions by that.
Right.
But it was 50% of the division of the first number. So this is where these numbers, like, all start messing up with me. And so all I know is, like, what we were used to having, that whole back part of the bowl was wide open. Like, every once in a while, you get some hula hoop chick who's strung out on LSD doing her lighty light thing in the background. She wasn't doing that.
Uh-oh.
There was no room. If she started swinging her hips and doing the hula hoop thing, she'd be like biffing people in the head because they're sitting down and she's standing up and the hula hoop is like going around. All of a sudden you have a mass murderer because she's like laced the hula hoop with razor blades and she's cutting people's heads off. I don't know how this all goes. So the hula hoop lady gave up the ghost.
Right.
Not the ghost, but her ghost of hula hoop. You know, I mean, and there's something about the vibe when you got hula hoop people.
Those are kind of a staple of the festivals.
Oh my gosh, you know, and then I love the hula hoop guys. Mm-hmm. They haven't figured out how to shake their hips like that, but they'll do it on their arms. Whoop, doo whoop, doo whoop. You know, all this stuff.
Not as impressive, by the way.
But when it's dark and it's lighted, the vibe is cool. Uh-huh. At that point, I don't care who's doing it. I'm just watching the lights and listening to the music. You know, it's a cool vibe. Yeah. Back to the Avett Brothers. The Avett Brothers, though, I mean, it was like, all right, we have this song, and every once in a while, I was like, hey, Hinterland, you know, like that. Mm-hmm. But the problem was the Old Crow Medicine Show went on before them. Mm. And that dude was entertaining.
He put on a show.
And he was like, bam, we're back. And this is, you know, and he got his southern drawl. And I think what we're dealing with is that the lead singer for Old Crow Medicine Show is an extrovert. And both of the guys in the Avett Brothers are introverts. And family guys are like, hey, you know, really, we're here doing this because they're paying us and we're on the road, but we really want to be home. And they didn't even tell us like what stop they were, where they were going. I mean, like once again, it's the reason why we look into the cameras. We look into the cameras because we're interacting with you. And and that wasn't even a rant.
Right.
That's just the animated story that Jim Jorgensen's asking for. Mm. Yeah. So for those of you who want me to get back to my calm, cool, collected IPR voice, I've got that available for you too. You know, but
that's right.
Yeah. I would say that I was blown away by Black Pumas.
I saw them at Lollapalooza.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very well done. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. That the lead singer there would invest into the group to have the female vocals with everything going on. It was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I was walking in when camp was playing because we got derailed on another trip into the festival when camp was playing the second day. Saw Mount Joy on the third day. Did not disappoint. I have a question for Hinterland, though, in regards to they pulled off a 3-day festival for their 5th year anniversary. COVID hit for what should have been the 6th. We're really in the 7th year, but it's only the 6th year because of COVID. And but they kept the 3 days. And I think it was pent-up demand, you know, like festival, oh, hey, we've been locked down. Let's go ahead and do this. Bands want to play. We've got the venue. People are paying tickets, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
You know, and at $150-some a ticket, and there's 15,000 people, you know, when you do the math, you're basically looking at somewhere around $3 million on ticket sales. Mm-hmm. That seems really impressive. Like, wow. Until your son-in-law is delivering beer on Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. Now, not your son-in-law, my son-in-law. I have a son-in-law.
Right.
His name's Adam. Uh-huh. Actually, people, if you're on YouTube and you're looking at the comments, Adam usually shows up just for the beards.
He does.
Yeah, and then he listens to content. Mm-hmm. Adam's a funny guy. Oh, my gosh. Someday we need to have him on here because he is just so quick.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we mentioned it, but you also said he needed to finagle the sponsorship first before we'd have him
That is
on.
true. Until I learned that what he was schlepping at Hinterland was Coors Light.
Oh, no. Adam.
See how disappointing that sponsorship would be?
That would be.
You know, I mean, the dude is not working a beer truck for an independent craft brewer. Mm-hmm. And even worse yet, it was Coors Light. But check this out.
Yeah.
Only the Coors Light. Now, they were offering shandy, They had Blue Moon. They had another version of Blue Moon that was I think it was a lighter weight, something like, you know how all the manufacturers are rolling out this
They're trying
all
to
day.
have a low cal.
Yeah, low cal and low ABV, and stuff, which
is fine for a 3-day festival.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know what? Festivals are for young kids.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you totally have to pace yourself, and
it's a lot better than having a
Blonde
let's
Fatale.
say Blonde Fatale.
Right. They did have Blonde Fatale on
did,
tap
yeah.
at the craft beer, like it was there.
Yeah.
But he sat down with us and was just chatting because he's like, hey, where are you at? I've been playing Where's Waldo for the last 6 hours. I'm like, that's funny. I've been watching you for 3 hours going up and down the cart path with your little cart. I said, I know exactly where you're at. And he goes, yeah, but I can't find you. I said, well, I'll have to decide whether that's something I want to disclose or not. But anyway, he came up to talk, and he's like, yeah, yesterday they 2,500 cases of Coors Light.
On the first day.
On the first day of Coors Light. You know how many people I saw with Coors Light? Very few people with Coors Light. So let's just do an equilibrium. Now, festival beer just moved at Hinterland from $6 a can, $8 a can.
I was going to say 8. I was just thinking. All right.
So I did the math.
Inflation.
Now we're yeah, pent up demand.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So I'm doing the math on like 3,000, and he's like, yeah, we're on pace for 3,000 cases on Saturday. And I mean, literally, he showed up at 9 o'clock in the morning and just started. And at one point, Amy was looking at the refrigerator rental that they had next to the beer tent, and she's like, Adam keeps coming with this golf cart, and it's loaded down with cases and cases of Coors Light. She goes, how much room is that? It's like that the refrigerator has a basement, like, where are they putting it? And I'm like, right. Amy, they're selling it so fast that by the time he makes it back, they're just replacing what they've taken from their refrigerator truck, up in the parking lot.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
But I did the math on a case of beer at $8 a beer.
Even Coors Light was $8 a beer.
Oh, all of it. Wow. I actually bought a PBR with one of my tokens just to say, and I told the lady sitting next to us, I'm like, because she overheard the conversation with Adam about how much, and I'm like, yeah, and that's just Coors Light. But in the math, it's like $600,000 in one day on Coors Light in the beer sales. So you start talking about $3 million for ticket sales. That is not where the money's at.
Right.
Show me the money. Yeah, apparently, being a distributor and making sure you have the into the festival, like that is the way to go. Yeah, but I spent a token on a PBR just so that I could say I spent $8 on a PBR, and I looked at it, I'm like, I can buy a 6-pack of Tall Boys for like $3.99 at Benny's.
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
There's a 30-pack for $14.
But those are 12 ounce.
Those are 12 ounce.
Not 16s.
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, oh my gosh. And people are like, Coble, how did you survive? I'm like, it was easy. You drink lots of water when it's so hot and sticky out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you got to do. Oh, and my body was feeling it too.
And how was the nights? Did the nights drop at all, or was it still humid at night? And
you know what? The final night, Sunday night, Leon Bridges, 14-mile-an-hour wind, dropped down to 81 degrees, felt like 84 or something with the humidity. It was all cool until the crickets came out and started like bouncing on our legs and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, hey, you know what? And everybody out there who has their camper that rides on the top of their Jeep or FJ, or all of the camping people that were camping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you're just soft. And I'm like, well, yeah. Have you been listening to the podcast? Of course I'm soft. I am a couch potato. I have no desire to become some like rugged outback hard body. That is not this guy. I mean, I've done my fair share of enjoying the wilderness. If you want to talk about seasons, I'm telling you, that was a season in my life. I like the air conditioning. I like it to be cool, and I just like to live this lazy life.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
All right.
Yeah. There's no more camping, only glamping.
Oh man, and you know what? Kels Clark was saying that they actually introduced a glamping section, sold out in 10 minutes, and that's where people come out, put up these tents and stuff, coolers, and based on what tier and level is based on what you were able to get out of it.
Huh.
Oh, but dude, I'm telling you, I thought there were a lot of people at Navy Pier 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There were not as many people at Navy Pier as in the idea of Lollapalooza. Hopefully they've struck up a deal and they'll offer it to Hulu for years to come.
Right.
But I'm moving very quickly to the whole part of I'd rather stay home, watch it on TV, listening through a sound bar, and enjoy all the acts.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Yeah, I mean, and I haven't been to an in-person festival in a while, but
right.
Yeah, I could feel that. I mean, with it also being warm, humid, not much. I mean, yeah. So I don't know what it was there in Iowa, but
you got to sign up for. It's a 2 shower a day.
Right.
Kind of day.
That's what I was thinking.
And, and depending on the weather, that can happen here. But, I mean, no. I mean, it's like you walk outside and it's like drip, drip, drip.
Well, I remember some of those days of 80-35 when it was super hot and we were sitting, I mean, like, not much shade. There's a couple of trees.
Right.
But those fill up quick. I mean, even that water that they had around it was bath water. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those were not pleasant.
And yet, heat. I of all of the time we were at 80-35 and doing 80-35, and I mean, that was typically in the first week of July. I mean, that started out around the July 4th holiday.
Right.
And stuff like that. But I mean, like, I still, like, my body doesn't remember it being as hot and sticky as, and we were, like, we skipped the early stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we drop in from 4 o'clock on, or, into the, so, and a couple times it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I mean, you're talking about 2.5 hours of sunshine. And the cool thing was Saturday, though, we went earlier, like 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it was overcast. And so we didn't have direct sunlight. It was still, like 86 degrees, feels like 94. But at least it was overcast and, the sun.
Right.
And then
direct sunlight.
The other whole climate thing is that it would decide to barely rain or rain during the evening. So now what you got is you got all this humidity coming up from the rain that happened. Ugh.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah, and when you get hot, you just sweat.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like a faucet.
Right.
Turn it on.
It
you
just
carry your sweat
stop.
towel with you. Yeah.
Doesn't stop. I'm a sweater. The faucet turns on and it doesn't end.
Yeah.
Until I'm sitting in front of the air conditioning for at least 5 minutes.
Or you realize it's time to hydrate because it's so hot, but you've stopped sweating. You're like, all of a sudden, hey, my body's telling me I could be heading it. And that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, all these younger people, they had to be over 21, but they were not near 50. And I mean, like, the alcohol that was being consumed, I'm like, oh, that has to feel terrible.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. Anyway.
I still remember a beer festival that I went to on my birthday.
Oh,
and it was on the Des Moines Bridge.
Right.
That one. And there were some people who were not taking into consideration the heat, and they were pounding
Oh.
beers, and like there were people who were passing out. There were people who were, I mean, like it was not good for some. I'm like, dude, yes, we're at a beer festival. Yes, you paid for a ticket, but why you got to be dumb? Like you got to mix in some water here because you're gonna die.
Right. And so like it makes you even wonder about like okay, there's all these lawsuits over the opioid
Right, epidemic.
yeah. Oh, yeah, epidemic. That's a great word.
Not pan.
It's not a pandemic. Epi like crisis, you know. And so I heard on NPR they were talking about how this is different than the tobacco settlements that went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, interestingly enough, big tobacco settled about, hey, we knew about this and blah 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 blah, and they're still growing tobacco, still selling cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Now the hammer's coming down on all these people with the oxys.
Right.
But you know, and then all of the billions that are going to be paid out and all this stuff, and they're saying this is ongoing and blah 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 blah, you know, and you know, but it just makes you wonder with the beer commercials when it says, like right now on the radio, big one's Heineken.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, if you want to go ahead, I mean, I drop that in about the same line as a Coors Light,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it says must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Right.
I'm like, what in the world? Please drink responsibly.
Uh-huh.
Like that's supposed to get you off the hook for people that are idiots,
right?
You know,
that's the line that has been federally mandated. You know, it's the same thing when you were looking. I mean, you were talking about tobacco, right? I mean, there was not just the cancer causing. They got stuck with that, but then they were also, as the vaping companies are now being sued for marketing to children or, you know, young adults.
Yeah.
And so that is a whole nother realm of lawsuits that now that when you're looking at the opioid epidemic,
Yeah.
that's a little bit different because it started from painkillers,
Right.
meaning then big pharma then is issuing those for doctors. Doctors are over prescribing and prescribing even if you're like, I've got a headache. Ooh, I've got a good painkiller for you. You know, I mean, they were pushing them.
Right.
So that probably isn't going to have the marketing to children aspect of it.
Right.
But like it doesn't mean that it's, you know, I mean, like just because they don't have that level of lawsuit on them.
Right.
I mean, but they've paid out, you know, billions already too.
Yeah.
And you know that they're not really feeling it.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing with Philip Morris.
Yeah.
I mean, they've paid out a whole bunch of money, but you know, guess what? They're still making it. I mean, and they were in charge of having to put out the you know, the commercials about the dangers of smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Because in their settlement, they said, now you're also going to tell everybody about it too.
Right.
So all those commercials that are also talking about the dangers of smoking, guess what? They're also sponsored by Philip Morris.
Whoa.
So it's a whole big, that's a big mess.
Yeah, the Pelican brief. That's
Right.
what comes to mind.
Huh.
Yeah, big old mess. So Hinterland, Colville, what do you feel about Hinterland? Well,
Yeah. So which day was the king?
What?
I said, which day was the king of it all? Which day you're like, yeah, like if...
Well, so there's two disappointing things that happened. Tanya Tucker got sick and wasn't able to be there.
Oh, man.
You know, and then Elle King got the flu
Oh.
and was told not to be on the road until she got her strength back. And so, like, there were two removals of that when the lineup rolled out. I'm like, oh, right on, you know. Orville Peck came out to sing with Shooter Jennings. That was kind of cool. Didn't get to see Orville's live set, but you know, for me personally, hindsight 2020. I mean, Friday was king for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the last time Old Crow Medicine Show was in Iowa, when I was in Iowa, for me to have the opportunity, and at the time I was listening to a ton of their stuff, was the year that when I drove down on Saturday night, because it used to only be a 2-day festival. It was Friday, started after work at 5, and then went all day on Saturday. And that's what what Hinterland was, not a 3-day. But I was busting my butt to go see Old Crow as the closer, and I blew the engine in my Honda Civic. And so that night turned into, not only did I not get to see Old Crow Medicine Show, but I got to wait by the side of the road for the tow truck, and then to be able to, but good things came out of that. 2008 Honda Element. Pumpkin orange. Yeah. And that car has served my family well.
And it lives on, right?
Oh yeah, Mike is still driving it. Yep. And it is. It's a good utility vehicle. And if you wonder what an Element looks like, it's a little square boxy thing. Seats come out, throw a bunch of stuff in there. Oh my gosh.
Which is why you originally were getting, because you were doing lots of gigs at that point. And
and
being able to put together, have all room for all your stuff was necessary.
When Carbon Canaries was playing, we could put all of our gear, sound equipment, the instruments we played, and the 3 people in the group in that vehicle and go anywhere. It was good.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It was like a clown car. When we came out and unpacked everything, it's the clowns are like, yeah, who's this band? Yeah, so I mean, it was awesome, and the Civic was cool because those back seats open up from the trunk, and I could pack a ton of stuff in there too. But usually it was my gear and the sound system.
Right.
So, but I think, like, for me, Friday was king only because I was there for the Avett Brothers, and I was looking forward to, because I hadn't gotten to enjoy Old Crow Medicine Show before. I was really looking forward to that. And then Black Pumas was on Saturday, so that was really good.
You think they were your big surprise? Like, from...
I do. Okay. Yep. And had kind of gone through on some things, and kind of checked out and listened and thought, oh, okay. And for me, seeing Leon Bridges live was really cool. That was like a 70s vibe throwback, he reminds me of a Donny Hathaway. I mean, and so for all the people who are really into music, you can argue with me about that. I'm just saying, on my perspective and perception, it just was a really cool vibe. But I'd never heard Mount Joy, haven't listened to Mount Joy. And so I'm like, I'll be getting one of their albums, and stuff. So just to round out the experience with that. So yeah, it was good. Super good to, be back in the 515, great to be able to catch up with my kids a little bit, got to hang out with my mom. Actually, she's the surprise. She's actually here in the studio.
Right. Surprise.
We invited Marilyn to come along and be on the podcast, and she's like, nope, not going to do it, but I'll watch you guys. And so, so just packed her into the FJ and got back to Chicago. So we had a full truck. We had Gypsy,
right,
me, Amy, and Mom. And so, we've been hanging out at the other studio, as we list all the studios.
Right.
I wonder if we should just go for a record. How many studios can two guys, like...
How many can we have?
Yeah.
We probably have room for more studios. So
there's room.
Like at...
I don't have more room in my life.
Administrative office over there, I'm sure we could turn into another studio.
We could. Yeah. So, anyway... So, and here we are, and as we continue, we are on a bit of a time crunch in this day, and by time crunch, I mean this won't be a 2-hour episode.
Right.
But we were, and now we've reminisced for Hinterland.
No, it's good.
The vicarious window you get to peer in.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's good to know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean, those are some bands that I enjoy. Yeah, El King, I've heard is a good live show too. So I'm sorry that she got the flu, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, I heard she's quite the performer.
Yeah.
But,
And it could be argued, some people could, who were there at the festival could say, well, you're judging the whole thing on the last third of the night for each night. So you didn't take in the whole festival. Right. And I'm like, hey, yeah, and I will have open, when they roll out next year's thing, and then I will weigh the information that their PR people end up doing in how responding, because how this whole thing started out is it started out with waiting lists. They sold the first round because Iowa was under pandemic. Hey, you can have outdoor concerts, but it has to be this percentage of the venue and what the capacity is, and blah 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 blah.
right.
And then they said, oh, hey, we're practicing social distancing, it's going to all work out because you're going to be able to social distance. No, you were not.
There was not room for social distancing.
And further up, like where the sidewalks come down the hills, like anything that was from the sidewalk forward literally was blankets touching blankets, people shoulder to shoulder, all in on that. And we were back further up the hill, and we were able to navigate to have some distance between us, but and it was so crowded and crazy. Amy's like got her mask on to go get food, and and stuff like that, and on Friday night, around the whole ring of the the amphitheater lawn or whatever,
yeah,
people were standing 5 deep. I mean, not only there was no place for them to go to sit,
right,
and they were standing, and the pit area was shoulder to shoulder. I mean,
so did they take the same? I mean, I know Lollapalooza, you either had to show your vaccine card or a negative test.
They didn't do any.
They didn't
do any of that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming then it wasn't for anybody else either. I don't think they looked at you and were like, "Oh,
yeah,
you look good. Let's go in."
Yeah, I mean, there was a sign up and like, hey, if you have symptoms, don't come in, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, if you got symptoms, you are not hanging out in this. I mean, like, come on, really?
Right.
Oh, hold it. There were idiots there. Maybe they would. But Jason Isbell,
he's going the full length.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of his tweets.
Yeah, if you don't have the vaccine, man, you're not, I saw on Instagram, Drive-By Trucker was supporting, that move and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there were people who were like, yeah, I can't believe you're going to do. He's like, yeah, don't come then.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to get inked, like, don't come.
Right.
Like, I'll be fine if you're not going to be at the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So he's standing firm on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, September 11th up in Winnetka,
with the Winnetka Music Festival.
Yeah. And actually, music there.
Do they change any of the lineup or?
No, but what I wanted to, Val's list. So the lady who was the person who started the Winnetka Music Festival, with COVID, she started a music blog, and a podcast called Val's List. And so what she does is she'll take historic artists and say, hey, if you like this, then you should check out these bands. And this is a similar vein, and she talks about it and talks about the strengths and weaknesses and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But she's quite a promoter, and just a person who really, so she has Val's List house concerts, and then Chapel Stage in Winnetka is a place where artists can perform or do perform. And so she's got Val's List Chapel Stage concert series.
Yeah.
And then this is the new one. It's called Emerge, and so she's rebranded. And instead of it being a 2-day, now it's a 1-day. But Alan Stone is the headliner.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't even looked into, what's. But I mean, it seems to be a pretty reasonable festival too. I think I saw $50 for the ticket for the day. And she's finishing up the evening with a DJ out of California, and there's some people that are back, like she's got some saxophone player that everybody just loved and stuff like that. So she knows her crowd.
Right.
You got to know your audience,
sure,
and stuff like that. And so, but that's going to be a day that, especially after having my fill of Hinterland, I'm going to have the shopping done on Thursday, and I'm going to hole up at the house Friday, Saturday. We'll come down to church on Sunday, but, it's like, won't be driving down that road.
Right.
Stay off of Willow.
Stay away.
Apparently, it's a new location, too, compared to where it's been in the past, and so it's at the rec fields and stuff like that. So,
yeah. So you know where those are at and where to avoid.
Exactly.
Right.
Avoidance. That's the craft that I wish other people would practice.
Right.
Really? I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what in the universe is going on that attracts you to me, but if you would actually learn the craft of avoidance and just avoid me, I would feel better.
Right on.
Sorry. Don't get too close. My cynicism may just rub off.
It's true.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
I just can get in these veins, and I'm just like, why in the world? Well, I'm in a mood.
Yeah.
I could be in a mood. I mean, yeah.
Always.
So we were tossing around what we should talk about today, and we got on traveling the world with Steve. So the last trip was Hinterland. But I was thinking, and it bumped me. What I was thinking about is, it's been a while since we talked about beautiful things and beauty and taking in beauty. And really, you know what? I'd be hard pressed. Our listeners would say, Steve, you can't call it a thread because you haven't talked about it enough. And so I'm like, wow. I will also, in the art of distraction, let you know that Netflix came out with a new UFO series.
I saw that it was out. I haven't watched it.
Oh. Marilyn and I got in 3 episodes in the studio yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the big names. All the names that we've been talking about. Yeah. And they bring it up to, like, they were talking about how not all presidents know about the UFOs.
Yeah.
Because they're like, a president is a part-time employee.
Yeah.
Part-time employee. I'm like, what? They're like, well, not part-time, but it's like they have a limited term. And they drop the name Trump. They're like, yeah, Trump, whether he's in for 4 years or 8 years, they're going to tell him all the UFO secrets? Not that guy. So I just laughed. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. So that took my mom and I into a conversation. I think we're on to, like, many things, and I've heard this feedback from some of our listeners.
Yeah.
They think my time travel theory is like a real deal. And I'm like, perfect, because I think it's a real deal too. All right. So we won't get distracted with that. But when it comes to, UFOs, I think the presidents that were let in on the UFOs are tied back to the Knights Templar or some of these secret societies. Like,
so you have to draw the connection. What do you think?
The Bohemian Group. I think that the people, think about George H. Bush. We've already talked. We're so
CIA.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's where he was at beforehand.
Yeah. Head of the CIA. Like, they linked him to a payphone the day Kennedy was shot. All right. The dude probably had knowledge of what the plan was to shoot Kennedy. All right.
So you're saying that the assassination of a president was done by the government?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was just making that clear.
I mean, that's not a far leap, is it? Do people think I'm crazy for thinking that?
No, but it is a conspiracy theory though, because some people would say Harvey Oswald acted alone because he was crazy.
Oh, come on!
I'm not saying
with the information that's out there, like
with the information.
You
still
you
would
ha-
say that.
You as a human, you are working really hard to suspend your reality at that point. Like it's like watching Jurassic Park and being like, okay, I'm really going to believe that this could happen, and so you dive in so that you can enjoy the movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is a part of like suspend. I mean, like, how do you deal with all the shots?
Yeah, so what would you're bringing that up? So this is a hard one though. Like, so what do you think that Kennedy knew or did that caused them to say we need to eliminate him? So like, I mean, because we're looking at some other presidents throughout history that, weren't exactly, probably stand-up fellas. And yet somehow they said, this guy's crossed the line and we need to assassinate him?
Well, think about it. All right.
Right.
Are you ready for this? I'm making all of this up. To all of our listeners, I'm making this up on the fly. Okay? I have no idea. I have not thought about this. We are on a trail that was not planned.
It wasn't
to
planned.
be paved at all. But go with me for a minute on the way my head works.
Okay.
When's the last time the United States has had a charismatic president that could actually unify the whole United States and get it moving in a direction? Since Kennedy.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I can point out, the only person close that's been able to pull bipartisan work together is Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked about him being abducted by aliens twice.
Right.
All right? I'm coming back to the thing that Kennedy didn't have to have knowledge of something or going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy had more power over more people in the art of persuasion. That made him a threat. It was the threat of that the two sides could not afford to have a singularity pull all of the people together, because you don't make money when everybody is happy, peaceful, and loving one another.
Yeah, so I know you just said you made this up. I mean, you're not necessarily.
I haven't thought.
There is some fact to that. Like, I mean, he was trying to unify and he was trying to cross the aisle, right? And I would say then in that political arena, it would have been a little bit easier. I mean, like, you try to look at our political climate today, and you're automatically going to take the opposite of whatever that person says.
Right.
So if you're somebody saying, this, then you're like, well, what's the exact opposite of that? Because I'm going to take that stance. So
right.
Like, that was the political climate today. Back then might have, been a little, I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect either. So
yeah, but who else died in that same generation?
Well, his brother did.
Well, but think about Martin Luther King.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're looking at all of them, you're saying Martin Luther, you're talking about Malcolm X, also assassinated, also presumptuous by FBI or CIA.
Right. And so I think that in that time, that's pre-DNA.
Mm-hmm.
That's pre-forensic science as we know it today.
Right.
And so I think that there was a major move on elimination. If we can't control it, let's eliminate it. Now, I mean, the other thing that these people don't always think about is then what rises up in the absence when you have a martyr,
mm-hmm.
someone who's been killed for that is the head of a cause, that can also rally the faith structure of people who believe in that person and what they stood for.
Right.
Yeah, it immortalizes them.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reason. I mean, so that's why, like, like, it's hard for me because I've watched all kinds of, like, JFK stuff.
Yeah.
both on the assassination part, but also just, like I think there's a bunch of JFK movies too.
Sure.
So when I'm looking at there were things like his his relationships with, extramarital affairs.
Yeah.
And some people are saying, like, that's just a bad thing for the president to be involved in. We can't let that out, which then leads us to, like, Marilyn Monroe. Did she kill herself, or was that also an elimination?
Oh, yeah.
And so there's other pieces that get involved here, whether it's like, are we looking at because he was trying to unify, and let's cut that down because we want, actually, we don't want to say this publicly, but we want a nation divided, not a nation united, because division actually makes us more money. I mean, there's all of the with Bush W. They were saying that he was jumping into wars to be able to unite. I mean, so is creating a division, whether it's amongst our people or amongst, so Russia always seems to be the bad guy. I mean, whether it was the Cold War and Russia then became, kind of this categorization of, like, this is the ultimate bad guy.
Right.
This is the enemy.
Right.
World War II, the Nazis. I mean, Vietnam, was the Viet Cong.
Right.
So there's always going to be we need to have a bad guy in order to kind of flourish.
Right.
I mean, so that's what we're talking about then, right?
We are.
I mean, so if he was trying to unite, you're saying then that was a big enough threat because we actually need a bigger bad guy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So the rest of the stuff, I mean, because other people have, talked about just morality. Well, we can't have the president being an, immoral or whatever because it's going to bring the office down, and so therefore we're going to kill him.
Which, again, it was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, also, if you want to bring religion into politics, JFK was the first Catholic president. And if you look, typically, like, isn't it Presbyterian? I'm trying to think of typically where the presidents land as far as going to church and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Because that's another question about that.
It's either Presbyterian or Episcopalian.
Or do they just categorize it as Protestant and Catholic?
Well, I think at the time they did, because that's how people thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, I mean, like, that's the thing that sticks out in my mind about JFK in regards to that, like, one of the major things that he faced was that people are like, well, we can't have a Catholic. And then, I mean, the way people were thinking, it was like they're afraid that the Pope was going to tell them what to do.
Right.
So then we got Italy in control of the United States.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but when you start thinking about the Knights Templar and all of this stuff with these secret societies, then yeah, that's where I'm saying, like, I think that if you got Netflix, get out there, because all the big names that we have talked about in the past, even in the second episode, I think it is, I mean, like, they're bringing Tom DeLonge, and the credibility being, like, given to the group. When you've told me that he was involved in the politically active about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that, but, like, there's third-party people saying the group that is assembled, that is doing the lobbying and stuff like that, they're like, these are some of the most brilliant people. Tesla came up. I'm like, oh man, this is a heartthrob. I can't wait to go back and watch it and take notes and be able to do that. So just telling everybody what's coming up is what we were actually going to talk about today, which is connected to beauty, and I'm not even going to give you the teaser of the trailer of what that's even going to be like. Yeah. But so that's coming up, and we do have a fringe episode that we're getting geared up for.
Right.
Boom. We're going to talk more.
So going back to that though, because you
Which part?
mentioned well,
Fringe,
no,
the government, religion,
yes, and
JFK.
it's mainly so you mentioned the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
So the Knights Templar, where does that come in with? I mean, I know you were talking about Bohemian Society. You can talk about Cross and Bones. They are all secret groups that a lot of powerful people have been a part of.
Right.
So how are you tying in Knights Templar and Bohemians to the assassination or?
Oh, not the assassination of JFK.
Okay.
I think that the presidents who get the information about aliens and UFOs
Mm-hmm.
are connected with the world order with these secret societies. And even though now, for people who don't know whether I'm being serious or whether I'm being sarcastic or whatever, but I'm going to go here and just hold on, okay?
Seatbelts.
These secret societies are the equivalent of Baptist churches in the United States. They all got a similar belief system, but they're so fragmented that, how can you show up in Minneapolis and there's the Third Baptist Church? Who wants to be the Third Baptist Church? What? And then somebody argued to be able to be the First Baptist Church? And then you got people showing up and they're like, hey, does your Baptist church, are you guys Southern Baptist? Are you Northern Baptist? Was it the Northern Convention? Is the General Association a regular Baptist church? Are you, there's a General Baptist church. That goes against everything that a Baptist ever was going to be. I'm a General Baptist. You're a General Baptist? No, I'm the First Baptist. I'm the Separatist Baptist. How do you get to be a generalist if you're a Baptist? You believe in the divinity of Scripture and the inspiration of Scripture and all the... But no, we're going to be the General Baptist. Well, what does that mean? Well, we just believe what Baptists believe generally. Like, what? Well, Steve, those General Baptists, they'll let ladies preach. Oh, what? Come on. So I think secret societies are a lot like the divisions of
So you think they're fragmented too?
Oh, hell yeah. Who came
So the
up?
world order is not really something that's systematic then?
Oh, I think there's a tattoo and there's a blood brother oath and there's a pinky swear.
Pinky swear.
I'm telling you. So, where do you think that what was the Cross and Bones?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what?
Skull, crossbone, yeah, something like that. One of those.
Yeah, what? These guys saw Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean and decided we're going to do this, in the 1910 or 1847 or whatever. I mean, sometime after 1776. Right. But I mean, my word, so when you talk about the Masons, and then there's the Freemasons. Well, what are the other Masons all shackled up? What's the deal? Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but the Masons were known for their great ability to be able to build and structure in stonework. Well, I have read enough of my history of the Knights Templar that I know that that's not what they were about, but it also migrated to become that they were master builders as well. Mm-hmm. So then you got Masonic Lodge. That's a whole bunch of secret stuff. Mm-hmm. People don't talk about it. They can't. They're sworn to secrecy.
Right.
I think it's all one dude had a secret, started asking other dudes to keep a secret, and then they got together, and then they're sitting down at coffee, and they're like, hey, what's that ring? Oh, this is the ring for my secret society. At what point, then, is the secret really a secret? I mean, what they practice might be a secret, but it's not a secret that they're a part of it. Mm-hmm. All right, so then somebody else is sitting there, and they're having their scrambled eggs with their wheat toast and grape jelly, and they're like, well, what do I got to do? Oh, well, you can come in, and as long as you'll keep our secrets, you can be a part of our secret club. But if you don't do that, and this guy's like, I don't want to have to learn their secrets. I'm going to make up my secrets of myself. So he reaches out to his friends. He's like, how about a secret society? What shall we call this one? Well, you know, the Masons got that one. How about we be the Freemasons?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, because you would say then, like, somebody at some point in time made it so it's not secret. So is there something out there that is currently secret still that we don't know?
Well,
so the Skull and Bones is from Yale, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what I just looked at. 1832 is when it was founded.
That's not bad. I said 1840.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right in the ballpark, but
which is about 400 years after the Knights Templar was put together.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when
somebody buried a treasure on the Curse of Oak Island.
Exactly.
I mean, like, we don't get good TV without this stuff having a thread of something that's real.
But it looks like, to me, it's the same as what you were talking about. It was like there's also known as, meaning somebody came along and was like, oh, let's take this little slice or this little segment. I mean, so there's the Order is what they call it, or Order 322, or the Brotherhood of Death. Who really wants to be a part of a secret society called the Brotherhood of Death?
Oh, no, there's people. We were talking about idiots earlier. I mean, dude, there are people. There are people. I mean,
got a secret group. We're all about death. Okay.
And I use the term idiots very loosely. And for a full disclaimer, much like a cigarette ad or an alcohol ad, when I use the term idiots, I am not coming from a place that I think we should eliminate humans that are idiots.
Right.
I mean, I feel really comfortable with my boundaries in regards to that. If I identify somebody as an idiot, I'm just not going to spend time with them. See?
It's as easy as that.
You know, and so, you know, I mean, yeah, this is really tongue-in-cheek as far as the things that I've been saying on this episode. And I hope that people, as they've listened, that they've gotten to know us a little bit about, like, with where we're at.
Right.
I mean, literally, you and I had no idea that we were going to head down this path. But
maybe the Illuminati did. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm listening to the UFO stuff, and these guys are talking about getting to meet the aliens and all this stuff. And I have to be honest with you. I remembered the last time that we were talking about UFOs and stuff, and I'm like, I'd really love to. I'd love to see a UFO. I'd love to see an alien. I'd love to, hang out and whatever. But for whatever reason, they're like, nope, not you.
Not you.
But I mean, on this new Discoveries thing on Netflix about, or Uncovered or whatever, like the title is, and stuff like that. I mean, there's people that have had like things implanted in them and all. I mean, like we're definitely going X-Files on this. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, really, is it so surprising? I think Solomon said it best. There's nothing new under the sun. So if there's one secret society, somebody else has got a secret society. I mean, this is all, and you wonder how this all works. I could even say the same thing. I picked on the Baptists,
right? But it's everybody.
But it's everybody. I mean, it's what denominationalism and the fragmentation is basically. It's the downfall of humanity, which we've talked about concerning tribalism. I mean, pretty much, if you don't like the tribe you're in, you just go start another tribe. And for me personally, I think it begs the question that we come into conclusion with, and that is, when somebody irritates you, ask yourself this question: who is profiting from my irritation? You think that's fair?
It's fair.
All right.
Yeah, because I would say that there's always There's always a profiteer behind things.
Well, and Mom and I were talking the other day. I mean, I think that's why I identified as a capitalist early on in life and all the way through. Because I'm like, man, if you got to work and somebody's paying you, you might just well figure out what job you can get paid the most at with your skill set.
Right.
Now, the idiots are going to have a hard time with that.
You get to decide if you're an idiot.
So, what I'd like to say, here, I'll give you a close-up so you can look into my little, oh, there we go. I'll look right into the camera. And for those of you who are listening, I just changed the view. You could check this out on YouTube, and you could see us actually chuckling, looking at each other and having the conversations, and then my expletive hand gestures. That's another thing that, like, when I watch, I'm like, gosh, you move your hands a lot when you talk. But what I would say in regards to where we're going from here is you need to listen to the next couple episodes, because we're going to talk about the bold and the beautiful. We're going to talk about soap operas. And
it's
where
be a good time.
Where this thread goes to, your mind will be blown. You're like, how in the world? Oh, we just showed you how in the world it happens.
Yep.
How in the world it happens is you talk about Hinterland, and then all of a sudden JFK's assassination, and you get to see how UFOs are only known by presidents who are part of secret societies. Right. And you can see that the real reason that JFK was even killed was because the possibility of peace, love, and happiness was at the forefront. And if you wonder, the reality is the people in charge don't want us to be peaceful. They don't want us to love one another.
Nope.
And they want to make a lot of money.
There's always a profiteer.
All right. So how about last words to the beautiful audience, Phil?
Yeah, I feel like there's lots to dig into at this moment in time. For you that are out there listening and where you're not familiar with the aliens, I'm gonna go and check out that series on Netflix so that we can be up to date on new information. But just even taking a look at who's profiting by us being divided, and there is a lot of people to profit by our division. And so instead of trying to look for division in ways in which we can be more divided, let's say, all right, who's going to profit, and how can we go the opposite direction? So that's what I have to say. Let's take a look at.
Yeah. The Mike and I, we'll have to dig this one up too. So we got the Law of the Student we've got to get to. We've got Bold and Beautiful. We've got Fringe episode probably number 3. Man, we got all kinds of content here.
Right.
And once again, we find ourselves at a place of that if some aliens can clone, we'd really like to meet them, because there's a lot of stuff that we need to get done. Yeah. The series that I am talking about is Top Secret UFO Projects, declassified. And so, which is really interesting because of all of the stuff that's going on. And again, in a move of brilliance, I would say that my brother Phil here came up with it. He goes, when they're releasing the information that we've been waiting so long for, what are they distracting us from that we really need to be paying attention? So then we'll go into the law of the zig and the zag, which is a principle I raised my son on. Yeah, so all these things to come in the future.
It's distraction.
It's an art. Gonna lob that one out there. Right. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. If you feel like you're like, hey, usually these conversations just continue to linger and go on and on. Again, we're appointment driven today. And so with that,
we'll have more, so don't worry.
It's us practicing.
It's going to get deeper.
Adulting.
Right.
We are adulting here by recognizing that there sometimes are schedules that you have to keep. All right.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
Take care. Peace.